There's something many older men still haven't grasped. A younger woman's rejection isn't about age itself, but about the invisible signals they're unknowingly projecting. You can have a successful career, valuable experiences, and an emotional maturity a younger man can't even imagine. But if you make certain mistakes, all of that vanishes before her eyes. Not because she doesn't value them, but because you're sabotaging how she perceives you, and you're not alone. Many men with years of life behind them, with wisdom acquired over time, face a silent frustration, a disconnect between what they offer and what younger women seem to be looking for. They wonder why. If they have so much to give, why aren't they attracted? What they don't realize is that those opportunities are slipping away, not because of who they are, but because of how they act. It's not your age that repels her, it's your behavior that disconnects her. This isn't about becoming someone else or giving up what defines you. It's about eliminating attitudes that are working against you and, above all, adopting a mindset that reflects who you truly are. A confident man with purpose and a strong sense of identity. To achieve this, we're going to break down the most common mistakes older men make when interacting with younger women, not only to avoid them, but also to transform them into strengths. Let's start with one of the most frequent and dangerous, the tendency to put women on a pedestal. Imagine this scene. You walk into a social event, you see her, she's young, attractive, with that vibrant energy that seems to fill the entire place. She catches your eye from the first second, and instead of approaching her as you would anyone else, something shifts within you. Your mind starts generating thoughts you weren't having just moments before. She's too good for me. I mustn't say the wrong thing, I have to impress her. That tension that arises inside you isn't invisible. She notices it. She may not say it, but she senses it. Your tone, your body language, your words change. You stop being yourself and become someone seeking approval, and when that happens, you lose all the advantage you had. Because a man's appeal isn't in how kind or considerate he is, but in his core. His authenticity, his ability to stand firm, even in the face of desire. When you see her as a trophy, as a prize you must win, you automatically change the framework of the interaction. It's no longer an encounter between equals, it's a competition only you are participating in. And that symmetry kills attraction. A woman wants to feel adored like an unattainable goddess. She wants to feel she's in front of someone who looks her in the eye with the same appreciation he has for himself. This doesn't just happen in person. It also happens through social media messages, calls, responding immediately, constantly showering her with compliments, always being available to her. All of that sends a direct message. I'm so impressed with you that I need to constantly prove my worth. And even though your intention is to win her over, the effect is the opposite. You're showing her that you think you're beneath her. The solution is to completely change your approach. It's not about ignoring her or adopting an arrogant attitude. It's about recognizing that there's no difference in value between you and her. Talk to her like you would to anyone else. Keep the conversation relaxed, spontaneous, without excessive expectations. Because when you feel comfortable in her presence, when you don't need constant validation, you project a confidence that she will notice. And that confidence is what generates real attraction. A man who values himself doesn't need to exaggerate to be seen. A young woman isn't looking for a fan. She's looking for someone who looks in the mirror with the same certainty with which she values herself. When you stop treating her like a trophy, that's when she starts to see you as a possibility. Now let's move on to the next mistake, just as common, but more subtle. Unnecessarily complicating the issue of age. You're having a good conversation. The connection is flowing, the laughter is up and down, and suddenly that question comes, "How old are you?" Instead of responding calmly, your mind panics. You wonder if you should confess, make a joke, or avoid the topic. And without realizing it, your body language changes, your tone becomes hesitant, and everything you've built up begins to crumble. The problem isn't how old you are, but how you communicate it. If you act as if your age is a flaw, she'll perceive it as such. Many men react insecurely as if they're confessing something shameful. And that not only makes you less attractive, it also erases the confidence you had projected. Because deep down, what you're projecting isn't your age, but your perception of yourself. The most powerful response isn't the number, but the attitude with which you handle it. State your age naturally, directly, and continue the conversation as if nothing is wrong. This tells her that you're at peace with yourself. You can even use humor intelligently. "I'm old enough to know what I want" can be more attractive than any justification. Remember, there's nothing more seductive than a man who fully accepts himself. Age only becomes a barrier when you make it a topic of conversation, and the more you avoid or downplay it, the more noticeable it becomes. Sometimes the only difference between her seeing your age as an interesting detail or as a problem lies in how you treat her. Let's move on to another classic mistake: trying to impress with money. Many older men, believing their advantage over younger men lies in their financial stability, make the mistake of using money as their calling card. Expensive invitations, unnecessary gifts, lavish dinners, rides in luxury cars, all without her asking. At first, it might seem to work. She smiles, expresses gratitude, even seems to enjoy it. But there's a fine line between being generous and appearing to buy her attention, and when that line is crossed, genuine interest vanishes. She may continue to accept what you offer, but emotionally, she begins to distance herself. This doesn't mean you shouldn't treat her or make thoughtful gestures. What matters is the intention behind it. If you do it from a place of confidence, with a carefree attitude that reflects your lifestyle, that's one thing. But if you do it seeking approval or trying to prove your worth, that's something else entirely. A man's true value isn't in his bank account, but in how he presents himself to the world. An interesting man with genuine conversation, who listens, connects, and acts with purpose, is worth far more than any luxury label, because money can attract, but only character can truly win someone's heart. Many men believe they need to impress to stand out, but what they don't see is that true standing out happens when you're just being yourself, without unnecessary embellishments. When you let your success speak for itself, without needing to boast, you earn respect, and respect is the first step toward a real connection. The next mistake is just as damaging, though harder to spot: assuming the role of mentor. Some older men, due to their protective nature or experience, feel the need to guide the younger woman they're involved with. They give her career advice, motivate her, and offer guidance. While this may seem positive, it ultimately distances them from the realm of attraction. Instead of becoming a romantic figure, they transform into a kind of tutor or father figure. She may appreciate, respect, even admire him, but she doesn't desire him. Because admiring someone for their wisdom is one thing, but feeling emotionally attracted to them is another. And when the relationship enters that teacher-student dynamic, the whole game of seduction is lost. It's not about ceasing to be a wise man. It's about knowing when to share your experience and when to let the conversation flow without becoming a guide. The key is to maintain a dynamic, fun, and engaging interaction, showing her that, in addition to being a mature man, you're also someone with whom she can share exciting, spontaneous, and lighthearted moments. A young woman doesn't want a teacher. She wants a partner, someone who inspires her, yes, but also someone to laugh with, to joke with, to build emotional tension with. When you understand this, you change your approach. Instead of positioning yourself as superior, you show yourself as an equal, and it is in that equality that real attraction is born. Let's move on to one of the most common and yet most invisible mistakes: trying to look younger than you are. This point is delicate because the desire to connect with someone from a different generation stems from an understandable place. But what begins with good intentions ends up affecting authenticity, which is actually what makes you stand out the most. Imagine a 48-year-old man who, to get the attention of a 25-year-old woman, dresses in clothes that don't represent his style. He adopts a language that isn't natural to him. He starts faking interest in trends he doesn't understand or enjoy and tries to fit into a lifestyle that doesn't suit him. What's the result? What he conveys isn't approachability, but effort. And excessive effort, when perceived, becomes rejection, a sigh of disapproval. The paradox is clear. The more you try to look young, the less attractive you appear, because a young woman isn't looking for an aged version of her 20-year-old friends. She's looking for something different. She's looking for experience, poise, a personal rhythm, an energy that contrasts with what she already knows. In other words, if you try to compete with younger men on their turf, you automatically lose. But if you choose to be yourself, with the confidence that comes from age and life experience, you become different. And being different in a world full of imitations is attractive. Accepting your age doesn't mean resigning yourself to it. It means embracing it, dressing with your own style, maintaining an upright posture, being mindful of your language, and projecting consistency between who you are and what you do. It gives you presence, and presence is what truly distinguishes a man from a crowd. You don't need to wear flat caps or fluorescent sneakers to be noticed. You simply need to show yourself as someone who doesn't need a disguise to attract attention. Now let's talk about one of the most frequent mistakes in conversations: talking too much about your achievements. The intention here isn't negative either. Many older men, wanting to demonstrate their worth, believe the best way to do so is by listing their successes, from the career they've built to the trips they've taken or the influential people they know. But this strategy has a major problem. It doesn't connect. A younger woman might be impressed at first. She might listen attentively as you talk about your properties, your company, or your lifestyle. But if that's the entire conversation, if there's no room for spontaneity, for shared excitement, for laughter or vulnerability, then her mind starts to tune out, and it does so quickly because achievements don't build intimacy. They're part of your story, but they're not what creates the spark. What does is how you make her feel when she's with you. If she feels heard, valued, and comfortable being herself, then she begins to build a connection with you. But if the conversation revolves solely around you and your greatness, all she'll feel is that she's in an interview, not on a date. The key is balance. It's fine to talk about your experience, but let her discover it over time. Let her ask questions. Let it come up naturally. In the meantime, take an interest in her world. Ask her questions that make her think. Listen actively and, above all, be human, because a truly successful man doesn't need to shout it from the rooftops. His presence in the world already communicates it, and now we come to a mistake that many underestimate, but which is crucial. Neglecting your physical appearance may seem superficial, but the truth is that attraction has a visual component that you can't ignore. No matter how profound you are, if your first impression conveys carelessness, it's very likely you'll never show your true worth. This doesn't mean you have to become a cover model. It means you should show that you value yourself enough to take care of your appearance. Well-chosen clothes, suited to your style and age. A flattering haircut, personal grooming, fresh breath, a fragrance that speaks for you without being overpowering, and most importantly, a posture that conveys confidence. Your body also communicates the way you walk, look, and sit. All of that is saying something about you before you even open your mouth. And if you don't pay attention to it, you're letting those details speak volumes. On the other hand, when your image aligns with the confidence you want to project, everything changes. She notices and starts to see you differently. Furthermore, taking care of your body isn't just about aesthetics. It's about health, energy, and vitality. If you stay active, eat well, and get enough rest, your mood improves, your energy increases, and your presence becomes more magnetic. You don't need a six-pack or an extreme workout routine. You just need to see yourself as someone who is alive and respects themselves. Now, having explored these mistakes, there's something we need to make clear. All of these behaviors can be corrected. None of them are permanent. They are adjustments of perception, mindset, and intention. The important thing is to become aware of them, because only what is recognized can be transformed. And when you do, the results are immediate. Not only because women perceive you differently, but because you begin to see yourself differently. Avoiding these mistakes isn't a strategy to manipulate anyone. It's a way to return to yourself, to reconnect with that whole version of yourself, the one who doesn't need to exaggerate anything to get attention. Because when you align with yourself, everything starts to flow. The conversation, the connection, the attraction, and this is where something fundamental emerges. Many older men feel it's too late to change, that they're trapped in their habits, their ways, their past. But that's not true. Age doesn't define your capacity for transformation. On the contrary, it's at this stage of life that you have more tools, more clarity, more awareness to do so. If you've made any of these mistakes, don't punish yourself. Acknowledge them and start working on them today, because every step you take toward your authenticity is a step toward your power, a power that isn't imposed but rather shared, a power that doesn't need to shout to be respected because it's felt. And that's what's truly attractive. What a young woman desires most in a relationship with an older man isn't his wallet, his status, or his promises. It's his peace, his steadfastness, his ability to be present without anxiety, to look her in the eye without needing to impress, to listen without interrupting, to remain centered, even when desire is involved. This is the energy that truly makes the difference, the one that transforms an ordinary conversation into an unforgettable experience, the one that makes her remember you even if she doesn't fully understand, because what you touched wasn't her logic, it was something deeper. And only a man who has learned to be whole within himself can achieve this. Therefore, before you want her to choose you, first choose who you want to be, not to fit in, not to please, but to inhabit your place with dignity, and from there invite her to share it with you, without masks, without strategies, without needing to convince her, simply by being yourself at your best. Age is not the obstacle. The real challenge is remembering that you don't need to compete, pretend, or exaggerate to be valuable. You just need to stop doing what disconnects you and start doing what represents you. And that, though it sounds simple, is the most powerful thing you can do. So far, we've talked about the most common mistakes older men make with younger women, but there's something deeper you need to understand if you truly want to make a difference. The root of all these mistakes isn't in what you do, but in what you believe about yourself. It's that internal perception of disadvantage, that I have to compensate for my age, that ends up seeping into your behavior and sabotaging your authenticity. When an older man believes he has to constantly prove his worth, he starts acting from a place of anxiety. Every word he says, every gesture he makes, every decision he takes is motivated by the fear of not being good enough. And that fear is transparent. She sees it, she feels it. It doesn't matter how sophisticated or intelligent you are. If you act from a fear of rejection, the effect is automatic. She perceives you as someone who isn't comfortable in his own skin, and there's nothing more unattractive than a man who isn't comfortable with himself. True attraction stems from inner balance, from the strength of a man who knows who he is, who doesn't compare himself to others, who doesn't compete, who is simply present, calm, confident, without needing to convince, only to share. That's the energy that breaks down barriers, that transcends age differences, that generates curiosity, desire, connection. Many older men believe that to attract a younger woman, they must adapt to her world, but in reality, true power lies in inviting her into yours. Not through imposition, but through magnetism, through the clarity of your experience, through the calm with which you move, through your ability to enjoy life without dependence. And to achieve that, you have to stop being reactive. Don't focus on what she wants. Focus on what you represent. Because when you are anchored in your purpose, in your authenticity, in your worth, she notices it. And not only does she notice it, she is attracted, not to what you have, but to who you are. That is the great difference between being liked by a woman for a moment and staying in her mind forever. Now, there's something else you should consider. Young women today are exposed to many types of men. Some flatter them excessively, others feign disinterest, and still others act needy. Amidst all that noise, what stands out most is the rarity of a man who doesn't act desperately, who isn't driven by the impulse to please, who doesn't constantly seek validation. That man stands out because he represents something they don't see every day: emotional maturity. And emotional maturity doesn't come with age automatically. It comes with awareness, with inner work, with the ability to recognize your mistakes without feeling guilty, with the decision to change, not for others, but because you know you deserve better. That man is magnetic, and yes, he's the man you can be, but that requires honesty. Look in the mirror and ask yourself honestly, how many times have I acted from need instead of abundance? How many times have I disguised myself as someone I'm not just to be liked? How many times have I abandoned my essence trying to fit in? When you do that inner examination, you begin to regain control because you understand you don't need to do more. You just need to remove what's in the way, what you're not. And when you remove that, what remains is your purest version. A man who doesn't need to please because he already pleases himself, who doesn't ask permission to show himself, but rather shows himself as he is, and from there generates effortless attraction. Because true attraction isn't built, it's revealed when you shed the unnecessary layers. Young women aren't looking for a savior, nor a teenager in disguise. What attracts them most, even if they don't always say so, is a man who has presence, not because he shouts, but because his silence carries weight, because his gaze has direction, a certain intensity, because his words don't seek effect, but truth. That man, even if he's older, doesn't look old, he looks whole, he looks decisive, and that's why he becomes irresistible. Now imagine you are that man. Imagine that the next time you're with a young woman, you don't feel the need to prove anything. Imagine simply enjoying the moment, listening more than you speak, allowing yourself to joke, but without forcing sympathy, looking at her without anxiety, being relaxed. Do you know what that projects? Freedom. And freedom, my dear friend, is the most powerful aphrodisiac there is. Because when a man is emotionally free, when he's not conditioned by fear, by ego, by comparison, he becomes an unforgettable presence. He may not have the youth of others, but he has something deeper, a solid identity, a contagious tranquility, an impactful authenticity. And that can't be bought, it can't be faked, it can only be lived. So the next time you're with a young woman, forget the script. Don't act as if you have to represent yourself in court. Don't exaggerate, don't hide, don't try too hard. Just be yourself, but your authentic self without needing to please, your true self. And let her discover what that means, because when you stop trying to impress her, that's when you truly begin to impress her. You've already learned what not to do. You've understood that age isn't the issue, that money, achievements, appearance, all of that is secondary if it's not backed by a strong essence. Now it's your turn to make a decision. Continue making the same mistakes that 90% of men make, or become that 10% who simply choose to be authentic. The choice is yours. And if you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is ready for that change, to stop chasing and start attracting, to stop adapting and start leading, to stop proving yourself and simply be. Now tell me, which of these mistakes did you identify with most? Leave it in the comments. I want to hear about your experience, your reflections, your challenges, because this space is also yours, and your words can help other men who are on the same quest as you. And if this video brought you clarity, made you think, or stirred something within you, do the algorithm a favor and give it a like. That way, more men can see it and learn like you did. Share this content with that friend you know needs it, and above all, subscribe, because what's coming will change your perspective forever. See you in the next video, and remember, there's nothing more attractive than a man who knows himself, respects himself, and shows himself without fear. See you soon. On fire, M. Yeah.